I value our darshan this Shabbat for a number of reasons. I value him because he is a past president of this congregation, and it is always good to listen to past presidents of one's congregation. Value him because he is also Megan's grandfather, and I've also learned that it is very important to listen to grandparents as well. I value him because of all the support that he's given to the congregation and for the incredible example that he and his wife Sybil of blessed memory set for communal involvement and leadership. An example that influenced not only his immediate family, but if you speak to people who are on the board at this time, they will tell you that he has been an example for them. But I also value our darshan this Shabbat because on any number of occasions, either when I have called him or when he has called me, we have been able to sit down at Arts together over breakfast and talk openly, honestly, with fun, with respect. And I always come away just a little bit smarter and a little bit more knowledgeable about the goals that I should be setting for myself as a rabbi and as a part of this congregation. It is a pleasure to be able to welcome Manny Kaplan to the Bima this morning.
Good Shabbos, everyone. Good Shabbos, everyone. You're doing much better. The portion of Shoftim, which means magistrate or justice, is a very important one in the Torah and sets forth how the people are going to be judged, also how the laws are going to be administered. It's very complicated and deserves a lot of discussion. The judgment that is required in this Torah portion is ultimately made by a court, but is initially made by each one of us to determine who we are and what we want to be. Once we've done that, then the community and the courts will use that as a basis for judgment. Let us just imagine. Think of a family, Abe and Sarah and their 5 children. They have 2 sons, I think you know who they are, Isaac and Jacob, and 3 daughters, Rebecca, Leah, and Rachel. They have come home from a journey where they went to give their seasonal offerings. We see them walking up to their house, opening the door, turning off the alarm, and finding a completely empty home. This is a family that has lived there for 15 years or more and now has nothing left of what they had before they went on their journey. They walk in, they look around, they can't find anything. Their TV, gym equipment, dishwasher, clothes washer and dryer, all gone. The children run upstairs to their bedrooms and find no beds, lamps, books, toys, computers, electronic games, all gone. They all come back downstairs immediately, and everyone has questions. The children ask their father, Abe, what happened? He replies, I don't know what happened. Leah says, Abba, in Pirkei Avot, we're taught that there are 3 essential crowns of leadership. The crown of kingmanship, the crown of Torah, and the crown of priesthood. These 3 crowns form the pillars of leadership, both political and spiritual. In Pirkei Avot, we're also taught there is one more crown, the crown of a good name. The Baal Shem Tov, the master of the good name and founder of the Hasidic movement, made the need to unite physical and spiritual a centerpiece of his teachings and action. What happened to the meaning of Shem Tov, a good name? You and Ima taught us to think about what and how we do things. It is a reflection on who and what we are, and the people will measure us by what we do and not what we say. We have all continued to be aware of this in all we do and help develop our own Shem Tov. Now, Sarah comes into the living room and says to everyone, "There was a note left on the kitchen wall. Basically, everything has been repossessed. We did not pay for anything, and it's signed by the merchants of our town." Abe says, "There's got to be some misunderstanding. How could somebody make such a mistake?" Well, the oldest son, Isaac, says, "I think we'd better find out what happened before we do anything." So who do we call, and how do we find out about that? Rebecca enters and says, "What an injustice. How did this occur?" Isaac says, "Ima, Abba, you've always taught us that justice shall you pursue." Sarah says, "Justice is said twice to remind us all how important justice is in our system. It also reminds us there are two sides to every story, and we should hear both before we make a decision. Justice can only be achieved when the plaintiff and the defendant have their say." Well, it looks like we're going to have to do that. Go to court. Sarah then says, "Shouldn't we find out more information? Who signed the letter? We know who signed the letter. Why don't we take time and call them and see what they have to say?" So Abe picks up the phone and calls one of the merchants. And he finds that according to their records, none of their possessions have ever been paid for. "That's impossible," he says. "We always take care of our responsibilities." The merchants, one after another, say, "No, you haven't. We've been checking our records, and it looks like you haven't taken care of anything." Abe talks to his family, and he says, "There's something very wrong, and possibly we have to go to court." Jacob says, "Which court? What kind of court? Who takes something like this to court? There's a number of courts." But this time, we refer back to the original courts that were established in this Torah portion: the Sanhedrin Gedolah, the Sanhedrin Katana, and the Beit Din. In setting out to establish courts of law within the land, Israel is to first appoint the Sanhedrin Gedolah, the great court, whose seat would be within the Beit HaMikdash itself. This highest court would have 71 judges, corresponding to the 70 elders who were appointed at God's command to share the burden of the people with Moses.